Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for October 3rd. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 26 live feeds. It was day 79 in the house, and the vote may have flipped here. We've got some stuff to talk about today, and with me to talk about it is Chantel. How you doing, Chantel?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm pretty tired today because there was a lot of conversations that were being had. And I got a Chelsie proverb, know your worth and add tax. And I was like, I actually really like this. So yeah, it's a good day.
Yeah. Well, of course, as we all know, MJ the HOH nominated Kimo and Rubina, considered using the veto she won to target Cam, but backed off of it after a conversation with Cam. And has since then been focusing on targeting Kimo. However, a few days ago, we noted that Cam told Kimo he wanted him to stay. And I said this is significant because Cam is the only person who has gotten his way with every single vote in the last, at least jury phase beyond. Watch out for what Cam wants. For as much as we look at Chelsie as the main mover in things, Cam has actually gotten his way more often. And so if Cam wants Kimo to stay, maybe that'll happen. Then yesterday, nothing was there to update. No conversations had been had quite yet. But today, we've got some stuff to talk about.
We got some waffling.
Yeah.
Waffle Wednesday came back.
So we started the day. MJ still feeling fine in her decision, thinking that she's in control of this. But the problem is MJ actually hasn't really been in control of any votes. Even if you look at the T-Core vote, you could just credit that to Cam if you wanted. And MJ tells Rubina, hey, you're good this week. The three of us with Chelsie, we're getting to the final three. And I promise if I need to break a tie, I'm breaking it in your favor. You're good. You're fine. You're staying.
And she believed that at the moment. And I think what's really wild is that she seems to have people that she wants to stay in the game. Actually, many people this season, but then they put them in danger. Whenever you put someone on the block, you give them the dangerous position of potentially going home. The house doesn't necessarily want to do what the head of household says. They want to do what's better for their games when you give them that power of the vote. And so the fact that MJ is the head of household and veto holder, and it's now looking like she's not getting what she wants. It's actually wild to me that the power, when people have had power, they have not wielded it in the right way.
Well, then Kimo talks to Chelsie. And Kimo's pitch to Chelsie, she had kind of blown him off in the past, but he tries again and basically says, "Hey, keep me around. I'm going to be targeting MJ. She obviously needs to go. She's going to win this game." And Chelsie says, "Well, I would love to keep you. Oh, if I was the sole vote, I would be keeping you, but Cam is a vote too." Chelsie has no idea that Cam has already told Kimo that he wants him to stay.
Which is it's really wild that Cam is playing really well. I thought that he's been doing a pretty good job with laying the groundwork for this potential flip.
And so Kimo's like, well, that's great news because I have already talked to Cam and he seemed interested. And she's like, okay, yeah, that's chill. I was definitely just lying to you now, but yeah, I'll go talk to Cam.
Yeah, she's kind of caught here. But I think I don't know if Kimo is that like perceptive that I think he just wants to hear that like, oh, okay, yeah, there's a chance. Like maybe she hasn't talked to Cam yet to know where he stands, and so I don't think that she got actually caught in Kimo's eyes, but in our eyes, like, ooh.
Well, she doesn't goes to talk with Cam, and he basically says, "Yeah, I want to keep Kimo," and she's like, "Oh, but that's not what we're doing." And Cam really, he lays out his points. He's clearly been thinking about this and how he wants to approach Chelsie with it, and so he lays out the argument, which is that the first and foremost primary thing, MJ wants Kimo out, which means they should keep him. Because if they keep MJ, or say if they keep Kimo, then MJ at the final four, who has wanted to evict Kimo, will be more likely to evict Kimo than Rubina. And that's good for both of them because it means that MJ is a lot less likely to take a sneaky shot at one of them because she still has Kimo to deal with. In addition to that, Kimo is worse at physical competitions. And if there are more physical competitions coming up, then he's not going to beat any of them. So that's really good. In addition to that, Kimo really wants MJ gone. Did he tell you that? Because he told me that. And she's like, he did tell me that. So Kimo, if he wins the final four veto, will always evict MJ over one of us. So like it's essentially a threefold argument there. And it's not quite convincing Chelsie immediately. She's still clearly fighting back for a little while here, arguing the case for Rubina, saying things like, well, you know, that does make some sense, but like there's some danger to it. If we made the move, I'd have to make sure Kimo really means that. Do we really think Kimo's going to do that? Do we think, like, isn't Rubina going to do that too? I'm not sure. And there's talk about how we'd have to make sure we got MJ on board too, which is a great way of deflecting most of the time. Like, oh, well, I would be down, but we should talk to MJ about it. But after more discussion and more talk from Cam about like, it's us though. Like if we are looking to get us to the end and not MJ, this is the move for us. And Chelsie breaks and she goes, you know what? That's really smart. Like, I think the smarter thing to do is to keep Kimo. Oh my God. The smarter thing to do is to keep Kimo. Oh boy. We got to talk to MJ.
I think the smarter thing, though, is for Cam. Like yes, like I agree with all the arguments, and yeah, it's sound. But I think that in a case between Cam and Chelsie, that Cam will be, favored by Kimo, and I'm just curious as to why Chelsie isn't recognizing that, because I think in the same scenario, Rubina would be more willing to, maybe if she wanted to say final three, take Chelsie to the end rather than Cam. So I'm just curious as to, is it maybe her crush on Cam as to why she was kind of so easily convinced to maybe do something potentially that's not in her best, or it's in his best interest?
I mean, listen, Chelsie is in the position of dominant strategist, right? Like we agree to that. I've said all along, Chelsie is not an unflawed player. Like a lot of Chelsea's moves and decisions have been very wishy-washy. Her best move in the game, in my opinion, was taking out Quinn, and she was actively fighting against it. She was trying to campaign for Quinn to stay at the last minute. Like it was like, this is not exactly somebody who is a decisive strategic player.
Okay, fine. You got me. Well, I always kind of wonder though, if that's like kind of her strategy, is that like she kind of plays the other side and then she goes with it in the end. Like I need to hear more of what she has to say about how she plays the game, because
I would honestly say I've seen a lot of like projecting motivation onto Chelsie that I personally don't see there. I don't think she needs to have like this perfect forethought of like everything
fair.
she does is a strategic thing that I think a lot of people are putting on her because they see her as the front runner. I don't think that's Chelsie. And I don't think that means she's like a worse player. I just think that she is not playing in the way that some people are trying to ascribe to her. And I do think she meant it when she said she wanted to take MJ to the final two, then changed her mind. I think she meant it when she said she wanted to evict Rubina, then changed her mind, and meant it when she said she wanted to keep Kimo until she changed her mind again and now wants to, like, that. That's what
That's
we're
her.
doing here. Yeah.
Fine. It's so not me. And so like I'm just trying to make sense of it.
So they do talk more about the two of them getting to the final two and taking out MJ as soon as they have a chance to, because she's not invincible. Tucker lost, MJ can lose too. And they're going to need to take her out because she beats both of them. And I think in this moment, Chelsie is once again being convinced, you know what, you're probably right. MJ was my girl. She had power over me this week, but like, yeah, maybe I do want her out again. And, once again, I think Chelsie is now considering the idea of taking out MJ in the final four. And so Cam does some very good work here, convincing Chelsie to keep Kimo and potentially go after MJ in the final four, which would mean Kimo makes it to the final three, which is theoretically good for Cam. Although I'd honestly prefer Rubina there than Kimo because I think that Rubina is going to be easier to beat for Cam. But at the very least, this is still damaging to Chelsea's relationship with MJ if she starts pushing Kimo, and we'll talk about that. So they bring it to MJ. They're like, hey, so how are we feeling about this vote? And MJ's like, what do you mean? We decided a long time ago. We're keeping Rubina. What do you mean? I didn't realize this was still a discussion. They're like, oh no, it isn't. Except, isn't Kimo worse at competitions? She's like, what do you mean? He's not. He's better at competitions. They're like, is he though? He's got like a bad back. He's got carpal tunnel. He's like 36.
I just feel like, you can see MJ just like her game just crumbling in front of her eyes. Like I feel like she was a little bit deflated. She's trying to be like, well, it's not my decision. Like, it's up to you guys. Like, that's not what I want, but I can't really do anything. And I just wanted to say, I don't want that to happen. Like, this is my HOH. You guys promised me that you were going to do this way, especially because of the fact that like I allowed Leah to leave this game and I didn't want that to happen. And you said that you guys were going to do this for me. So under no circumstances do I want to be making the tie vote decision. I want you to vote the way that I want. Just lay it down and it will be a lot harder for them to be convincing.
Well, she tries to argue back, hey, Kimo's a bigger jury threat. Didn't we talk about that? Like the Angela thing. And Chelsea's like, I don't think we should worry about jury yet. It's only the final five into the final four. Like, it's a little early to be worrying about jury votes. And MJ keeps saying things like, I'm not unaware, her catchphrase.
She's got a shirt made.
Right. Listen, I don't even care. Either way. And they're like, oh, so you really have no preference? She's like, well, no, I have a preference. And it goes back and forth, and she's clearly getting pretty frustrated here. And Chelsie is pushing just as hard as Cam. And at the end of the day, she kind of just admits, like, listen, I don't have a vote. You're free to do what you think is best. And Cam and Chelsie are like, we got her. We got her. So Cam ends up leaving, and MJ is like, okay, now Chelsie, we can really talk. Like, Cam was doing all this, right? Like, oh my God, he wants to keep Kimo because obviously that's good for him, but we know it's good for us to keep Rubina, the girls thing. And Chelsea's like, nah, I think we should keep Kimo. And MJ, let me tell you, she is mad. Like, this is a very awkward conversation between her and Chelsie. The vibes are awful. It is a full-on, like, not a full-on argument, but it feels like it should be a full-on argument.
And I guess I feel bad for MJ in the sense that, I
don't feel bad for MJ. Sorry to cut you off. I don't feel bad.
I know. Okay, I know what you mean. I don't feel bad for MJ because she's playing so poorly, but I feel bad for like the person that's like trying and failing, and So, anyways, there's two sides to me. But the fact that she didn't really lay down like, hey, it's bad for me. He's coming for me. Don't you care about me? We're supposed to be working together. Like, she hasn't really expressed that, and so. I wish that she just was able to share why she's frustrated by this flip and why it's bad for her game for him to keep him. But she just doesn't do anything. She just kind of stews.
So they go back and forth for a while. And MJ just hates this. How do you feel about this? I hate it. Like, I think, you know, like, this is just a very annoying situation. And she keeps arguing the points about, like, I think Rubina's better, and Chelsie keeps arguing back. Like, I don't know. I feel like it does make sense to keep Kimo around. I mean, she's like, it makes sense for Cam, not for us. Like, and she starts really getting frustrated. Like, I just, like, it's not worth it. And Chelsea's like, you should just talk to Cam. She's like, it's not worth talking to Cam, because he's like, it's just going to make him feel even worse about me. And it's like, yeah, that's why Chelsie suggested it. And it's like, I've protected him this week. I could have put him on the block and I didn't. I've been protecting us. This guy hasn't won. Like, he's won one competition. I've won like 8 competitions. Like, what is he even doing? Why is he even here? Like, I've been carrying him this whole way. It's so funny to me how massively inflated egos get when people win competitions, as if that makes them more valuable humans. So they just, like, they keep arguing back and forth. And MJ keeps trying to make the point of, like, this is Cam playing us. He is getting his way, and he is like, getting doing a thing that benefits him. But she does not make any progress here, seemingly, in this moment. And again, agrees, like, at the end of the day, if you want to do this, I can't stop you, and I'm not going to be mad at you if you make this decision. And so, the conversation kind of ends there. MJ certainly fighting back, but not drawing a hard line.
And that is what's frustrating, is because she's in power, so she should have a little bit more control of the vote, and these are supposed to be her allies. And yeah, she just can't compete with them. Like, they just snowed her. So
they've literally never once done a thing that she's wanted them to do.
It's true.
It's wild that she even considers them allies in the first place.
Very true. Very true. That's one of the reasons why I feel a little bit bad for
her. Listen, she's not unaware. Cam talks to Kimo. He lets him know that he's been pushing. They may need to talk to Chelsie again in the morning, but, like, he's feeling like they're making some progress here. And Chelsie tells the cameras after her conversation with MJ that she thinks Rubina will be leaving tomorrow. Now, Chelsie does this thing a lot. We've talked about it before. She does her predictions. Her predictions don't always line up with what she wants, even though she sometimes has a huge impact on what will actually happen. So she says that she thinks Rubina is going to leave tomorrow, but when she talks to Cam again, she's having second thoughts. The conversation with MJ actually did have more of an impact than we thought, and she's changed her mind again. She wants to keep Rubina.
Because she probably realized it's better for her.
And that's what she says. She says straight up to Cam, I think keeping Rubina is better for me, and keeping Kimo is better for you. And Cam continues to argue against it. He makes the case again that it's better for the both of them because it's bad for MJ, and MJ is a threat to the both of them. And she says, yeah, but I do feel like Kimo is more likely to win competitions. And our worst case scenario is Kimo winning that final four HOH, and then MJ winning that veto. And he says, I mean, that's certainly bad, but, like, I do think that Kimo's less likely to win, and they keep going back and forth about that. And she's now arguing against him. And she reiterates, like, I think that it makes more sense to keep you around because I think Kimo would keep you over me, but I don't think it necessarily makes sense for me to keep Kimo. And he's like, all right, that, if that's how you feel, then we can just keep Rubina. Like, I don't want to make a move that is bad for you. And she goes, well, I mean, no, because, like, I mean, there is merit to evicting Rubina. Like, if you think about it, like, she's playing really sneaky. She went to MJ and tried to throw me under the bus. And she does seem like she's too willing to keep MJ to the final 3. And if that's bad, because if Rubina doesn't evict MJ, she's evicting one of us. And Kimo will evict MJ. And so if we want to weaken MJ, we probably should evict her. And I do want to help you, Cam. Like, I do want to make a decision that's good for you. So, like, we should evict Rubina. And Cam says, listen, don't make the decision for me. Why don't we sleep on it? We'll talk to Kimo again tomorrow. We'll have a discussion. We'll come to a conclusion. And that's how the night ends.
Well, one thing though with Cam and Chelsie. Cam has really been working and really massaging his relationship with Kimo, and so I think that like he might be just like pulling back a little bit to allow Chelsie to come to this conclusion, which I think is pretty smart strategy. But I'm also shocked that Chelsie isn't putting any work in with Kimo, even in the times when she was kind of like really focused on like, yes, we are keeping him. Like, well, if you're keeping him, you got to go and talk to him and tell him like, hey, I want you to be here. Cam and I are coming to this agreement, and like we're trying to make MJ okay with it, or something to show that like Cam didn't convince Chelsie to keep him, that Chelsie wanted him to be there as well. And so I can't believe she's just giving Cam all the credit for this move if they keep him in the end.
Yeah, and I mean, this is obviously wild gameplay from Chelsie. Like, what in the world are you doing being convinced by Cam to like damage your relationship with MJ for no reason? To bring Kimo along, who is a lot more likely to win a jury vote. Like Kimo, I think, is the one person who actually has a chance at beating Chelsie in the final two. Not to mention the fact that he is also the primary anti-Chelsie person. He's the one that convinced Rubina that they can't bring Chelsie to the final two. Like, this is all very bad for her. And, like, every piece of it. And it's wild that she's gone back and forth so much. And you're right, she hasn't even really gone to Kimo to take any kind of credit for this yet. She's been pushing this hard without even like really
from it.
getting any promises from. So it's like it's pretty wild, and it'll be interesting to see what happens today, because of course the eviction is tonight and the decision has not been finalized yet. Either way, Chelsie has certainly done some damage to her game. That argument with MJ, like, she is heavily relying on MJ being willing to take her to the final two, and MJ thinks that she might lose to Chelsie in the final two. So the fact that she's like pushing so hard against what MJ wants again is just really tempting fate, I should say. So some interesting decisions being made for sure. I again, just kudos to Cam, because I've been trying to make sure we're giving him props. I think that he has been dogged on a lot by the strategic fan base, but like, I want to reiterate, like, he has been on the right side of all of these votes, not just the right side, but what he has actively been pushing since the jury hit. And not just by coincidence. He has been the primary, I would say, driving force behind all of these things. He is a huge reason why Quinn left. He's a huge reason why T-Core left. I said this at the time, is the reason MJ locked in the decision to take out Leah. Without Cam, that decision does not, that move does not happen. Cam is the reason. Cam is the guy that got MJ locked in. MJ was heavily reconsidering the move until she talked to Cam. And so, if he manages to pull this one off too, in a spot where he absolutely shouldn't, like, this benefits nobody but him. This is some good stuff here from Cam, and I think we should be giving him a bit of credit for the game that he's been able to play in this, especially in this jury phase.
100%. But one thing though, with Kimo and Rubina, it really frustrates me that they don't even try to have some influence in what's going on. It's like they just allow people to make decisions, and then they said, I'm okay with it, whatever happens, whatever we want to do. I think Kimo is obviously doing a little bit more work, but I was just so annoyed with Rubina because it was already starting to shift where the direction that Cam was going, and she's like, yeah, I think that I could read your mind, or I think I know what you're thinking when you look at me. And he's like, oh, yeah. And like, that was basically it. She did not plea again. She did not make any more promises. She just was like, we're good. And that was it. And I'm like, Rubina, you might be going home for real this time. And yeah, they don't really do enough for me. Of like, I want them just to be more actionary players where they really they try to give options to the people, and instead of just saying like whatever's best for your game, if I'm best for your game, keep me. It's like, well, let them know how you're best for their game. Let them understand why it's important for you to stay, instead of just giving all their power away. So I just had to do a little mini rant there, because I just want them to want to be there enough to make an argument for them to stay.
I agree. I mean, listen, I will certainly give Kimo credit for talking to Chelsie today and getting the wheels in motion, and for having talked to Cam previously. He without the bit of Kimo's work that he did do, I don't think this would have been possible. But he could certainly be doing a lot more, as could Rubina. They're really just leaving their fate in the hands of these, like making their campaigns and then leaving their fate in the hands of these other players. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I don't even know what I want to happen. Like, I don't know if I want, like, I was wanting Rubina to stay just because, like, I feel like I want to see more from her, and I don't know. Actually, I'm not sure what I want. What do you want?
Listen, if Kimo somehow stays this week,
okay, it's impressive for gameplay.
No, it's impressive for me, because I will have all three of my draft players in the final four.
That's
how ridiculous is that?
That is ridiculous. And you'll be able to say that you are the most
every single week from week 1 when Kimo was on the block. I was like, all right, I'm losing a draft player. Then week 2, then week 3, like every single week, I was like, this is the week. And this time I was like, this is for sure the week. And then somehow,
I mean, for this lore, it's pretty cool.
It's wild.
And I want this to happen for you. So that actually gives me a fighting interest in what happens this time.
All right. Well, that is what we have for you then today. Of course, I'll be back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 26 live feeds, including what happens what happened to the vote, because you'll obviously see it tonight. And then we'll have an update on the final 4 HOH, which is honestly not super. You know what? It is kind of important. I do think that MJ will be looking to take out. Well, this is the thing. Cam's move is correct. If he keeps Kimo, I do think MJ has to take out Kimo before Cam. Yeah. So, I mean, HOH will still matter, but it's, again, as we all know, it's mostly just safety. So I'll have an update on the HOH winner, of course, and what the plans for the week are, if they've changed at all since the eviction. But we really don't even know who's going to stay quite yet. The fact that Chelsie flip-flopped at the last minute last night does indicate that she may flip-flop once again in the morning. So what I will say is that if the plan is, and it kind of was, for Cam and Chelsie to talk to Kimo in the morning, or at some point today, I think that means they will keep Kimo, because obviously talking to Kimo will lead to keeping Kimo. He will tell them what they want to hear. That is a formality kind of thing. And I don't think Kimo will like screw up the conversation and say the wrong thing. That's not like, Kimo's not that kind of player. So if that's the plan and they do it, I think they will end up keeping Kimo. If they don't talk to Kimo, then they're less likely to keep Kimo, in my opinion. But still potentially leaning in that direction. MJ, of course, should be moving on this. She still has a chance to put a stop to this, considering how close Chelsie is to wavering. She should be talking to Rubina. She should be talking to Kimo. Listen, this is the real way to stop this. And players never do it, but they really should. MJ should go talk to Kimo and ask and like get him to campaign to her, and then bring that campaign to Chelsie. Hey, I just talked to Kimo, and he promised me that he wouldn't evict me at the final 4. And he promised me that he would take me to the final 3. So I don't know. Maybe we should keep Kimo. I'm not sure. Right? Like, and now all of a sudden Chelsea's like, oh, great. He's promising everyone everything. And it could totally break the whole thing wide open. So, that I think is the best way to stop a campaign like this, but we'll see what happens. Could be an interesting day today, but let's be real, it'll probably be pretty sleepy except for one locked in conversation. So we'll find out. I'll be live tomorrow morning to update you on all of it. Tonight, there's going to be a 2-hour episode with the veto and the comics and then the eviction. So stay tuned for that. We don't quite know who's going to be going between Kimo and Rubina yet, so could be a fun one. And then we'll be live after the episode to podcast, recap it all. We'll have some fun with it all. So find me over on Twitch. Check out our circle coverage for the finale. We did some jet lag. We talked about Tag 3 season recap. So tune in for that one. And the summits. The summit it re-aired last night after Survivor. So check out our coverage of that. There's so much going on. Chantel, what are you up to?
So you can find me on Twitter at Shan___Fran or at ShanFranFran on Instagram, or my Reality Realness with 3 S's on YouTube, where I am actually covering The Traitor Season 2 with Melissa Best from Season 1. And we're doing some exit interviews. So 2 of them should be dropping tomorrow. So we have that coming up. And then back with my family on Sundays talking about Survivor. And this episode will be one to talk about. So tune into that as well.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us here today, and I will see all of you next time.